Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. It's a pretty good sized week, pretty decent sized week. And there's still some catch up from last week, so we're still trying. WonderCon really threw a monkey wrench into everything because that was 3 days. But before we get started, there was some very sad news in the comic book industry. Trina Robbins passed away yesterday, and she was really a really advocate for women in comics and getting, especially at the time, the two major publishers, DC and Marvel, to understand that there were women and girls who wanted to read comics, and you needed to, instead of just the male, superhero fiesta, actually create books for them. She also was a really a strong advocate. Planned Parenthood was a really big thing for her, but just also, and she was also a founding member of Lulu, Friends of Lulu, which was an organization back in the, I believe, late 90s, where it was trying to, get more women and girls to read comics and to get more women and creators into comics. But it's a very sad loss. She did a lot of work. She worked on underground comics back in the day. And, it was really, really a huge loss. I didn't know her personally. I'd met her a number of times over the years. She was exceptionally, just very nice and gracious, and really, the thing that was really great is she was really, tried, to get more females into comics, whether it was creators, or whatever, and it was really a big loss. And I also want to mention, it was about a month ago, that Ramona Frandon had passed away. She, I believe, was 97. She had she had recently retired before she passed away, about 6 weeks before. And she was still working. As a matter of fact, for Women's Month, she did 3 covers, which might have been some of her last, would be her last published work for DC. There was Wonder Woman, there was Power Girl, and I think a Catwoman cover were the 3 covers that she did do. So it was sad but very nice tribute. For me, her big influence on me was she did most of the artwork on the Super Friends comics back in the 70s. And thankfully DC has reprinted those in 2 nice hardcovers if you can find them. They're really a lot of fun. She also co-created Metamorpho. She worked on the daily strip Brenda Starr, and she also worked on Aquaman. She really that was really some wonderful work that she did. She was one of the few women that back in the day that was actually working in comics. There's also a nice book, an interview by Howard Chaykin interviewing her, and there's a nice hardcover from Dynamite on that. You can get it at your local comic shop. I actually ordered a copy. I didn't even know it existed until she had passed and it was mentioned. But definitely that's well worth one, to learn about her, but also it has a lot of unpublished artwork, a lot of sketches that she did over the years, and really goes through her career. So that's definitely well worth checking out. So really sad news on both those fronts. So if you're not familiar with either one of them, definitely look them up. They were really really talented women, and it's a huge loss. Both are a huge loss for the comic book industry. But once again, as I always say, when you have people in the arts and stuff, they will continue to inspire generations to come with their work. So definitely check out both of their works for sure. So let's get to the comics this week. First up, we have Uncanny Valley #1, written by Tony Fleece with artwork by Dave Wachter. So what this is Oliver's a 12-year-old boy, and he does normal stupid stuff that a boy does. Like, it opens up with him jumping off a bridge, except for the there's three boys. There's Oliver and two of his friends. They both kind of like break their arms and stuff, where he actually goes into the ground like a cartoon. And so his mom comes to pick him up from school. He gets suspended from school because he's done other things, like set the cafeteria on fire. And it's kind of weird when he explains about like, setting the cafeteria on fire, that he ate a really hot red pepper and he felt something and then he passed out. Well, come to find out that his, we don't know who his father is, but his grandfather shows up, and his grandfather's a cartoon character. So Oliver is actually a half breed, and what the reason that the grandfather shows up is that these crows come to look for Oliver, because we don't know why, but basically Oliver is half cartoon. So that really is interesting. It's a really fun story. Fleece is really just a really good, at setting this up. It has, it does a great balance of it. And the exposition is really quite nice. We get to learn about Oliver and his mom, and then the grandfather shows up. We don't know much about him yet. But really the most amazing thing is Waxter's artwork, because he draws, Oliver and then the real world very normal, but then there's these cartoon characters like the grandfather and the crows. And also how he does like the cartoon stuff that Oliver does. It's still based in like reality artwork, but it has like a cartoon feel to it. It's really just, it's a gorgeous looking book. I really like the premise of it. Some kid, 12-year-old kid being half cartoon, and he's able to do like cartoon stuff that he doesn't know about. So that's really interesting. And the grandpa is like, kind of like a Yosemite Sam type character, the crotchety old, man thing. And that's going to be fun. So I really enjoyed this book. Definitely pick this book up this week. Next up, we have Disney's Hercules #1, written by Elliot Kahn, and with artwork by George Combidas. Now, this is the same team that did the really good Hades miniseries. So they're absolutely perfect to do this, because it's set, in the same universe. And what I liked about the Hades miniseries is that it was focused on Hades, and this one is now, because we didn't see Hercules or any of the characters, it was a standalone with just Hades in this team. Now we get to see Hercules, Meg, and Phil. And so basically what it is, because he saved Meg, he's become immortal, but he still has godlike powers. And so what it is the gods, can't quite understand why he wanted to become mortal, but they also are able to ask for his help in the real world. Where, that way the gods don't have to like interfere all the time. They can ask Hercules to help. And so the story in this issue is that this statue maker makes a statue for Aphrodite, and it comes to life. And at first, it's you think it's a monster and something, but it's actually not. It's actually a female statue that has come to life. And so Hercules, says, hey, she doesn't need to be. She's not a monster. And so that's kind of setting up, the story of him doing things for the gods and, kind of helping around town, basically. I really like, I'm a big fan of the Hercules animated film, and Khan has done a great job of kind of capturing that feel, especially with like Meg, because, Meg has that kind of sass to her, and he's definitely captured that. And also Pegasus, there's not a lot of Pegasus, but there's a little, and he definitely gets everything. And I figured he would, because of, the way he was able to do, when he did the Hades miniseries. And Kambada's artwork is really just perfect. He really gets it. He has that cartoony style. And I really enjoyed it. If you're a fan of Hercules, it's definitely worth picking up. And it's a really nice all ages book too, which is always I think a plus, because it's not necessarily written for kids, but something you can hand to a kid, and they'll definitely enjoy just as much as you will. So definitely another big win this week. Next up, we have Last Mermaid #2, written and drawn by Derek Kirk Kim. Now, this came out last week. It's one of the first ones we missed. So, what it is, the mermaid, as we saw in the last issue, she was running out of water, and she was, and the havoc suit was damaged. So she was able to find some fresh water, and so her and her little pet Lottie, they're in this kind of underground cave, because there's not really much water in the world because it's post-apocalyptic, and so and she starts fixing the havoc. And they discover that they're actually in a graveyard, that there's this giant monster fish. So that's going to lead into the next issue. This is really an interesting book. I think it's interesting because it's a lot more visual. Kim comes from the animation industry, so that kind of makes sense doing a visual book. I do really enjoy the book, but I think it's going to be one of those books that I think will read really well reading it as a complete story. That's not saying it's not worth picking up as a monthly. I just think that there's so much in there that it's very, even though there's not a lot of dialogue, it's very dense, but it's also like you have this wanting to have more book. You want more, and you have to wait 30 days. So I think it's just one of those. I think it's going to read really well as a complete story. But as a single issue, I really enjoy it. I think it's well worth checking out. But I think for a lot of people, it's just going to be really great to read it when it comes out in the collected edition. Next up, we have The Batman First Night #2, written by Dan Jurgens with artwork by Mike Perkins. So as we saw at the end of the last issue, a little bit of a spoiler, that Batman was stuck in the electric chair, so they're going to fry Batman. Unfortunately, as we all knew, he was going to get out of it, but he's a little messed up. He's kind of got a little crispy after that. But him and Gordon are really trying to figure out, what's going on with these monsters, because the reason he went to the prison was that the two of the monsters were basically recent prisoners that were electrocuted. So that's why he ended up at the prison. So obviously Gordon is there too to try to find out what's going on. But we also learn that there's, kind of a mob boss behind this whole thing, and what he, obviously he's trying to take control of, Gotham. But, this is like, just, kind of still where they're still in the Depression a little bit, and it really takes place. This is like Batman's first case, so he doesn't have a lot of gadgets. He doesn't have a plane. As a matter of fact, when he gets out of the prison, he actually steals Gordon's car to like get home. So he's just learning how to be Batman, which is really a fascinating concept for the story, which I really like. But also, kind of it's kind of taking a murder mystery type premise as its story to put all these pieces together, which is really what I'm liking about the book. Jurgens is doing a great job on the script. Perkins' artwork is absolutely gorgeous. Really captures the feel of like that 30s era kind of visuals and everything, and it's a gorgeous book. The story's great, and I'm really loving it. I also like that, Batman, is kind of, not so much he's weak, but he's just learning how to be Batman, which is really, kind of adds a great, layer to the story. So definitely still worth checking out. Next up, we have Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees #5, written and drawn by Patrick Horvath. On a side note, I got to meet Patrick at WonderCon, and to tell him how great this book is, and it really is that great. But this, obviously the revelations of last issue where there was this kind of fan of Sam, and he found out about her murdering people in the city. So he framed Sam by putting some of the, paint cans of her victims from the city in her in her hardware store. And so now Sam's on the run, so she goes to the big city where she can kind of blend in and hide and try to figure out, how to deal with this whole thing. And while she's there, she encounters these two bears fighting over, a kill. So now the interesting thing about this story, which is really quite fascinating, is even though the characters are anthropomorphic, it's like a Richard Scarry story, but there's also real animals. So it's kind of like, it's odd, but really kind of amazing. And so, after the attack, the bears attack each other, she gets this idea that she needs to go kind of somewhat fix things. Now, obviously, she's a serial killer and all that. There's that whole thing, but I think the fascinating thing is like, like it's totally messed up that like she kills people, but you're also like you're kind of mad at the guy for framing her for killing people. It's very weird, but it totally works. And so she comes back to Woodbridge to, basically the next issue is going to be the finale of kind of fix the thing. Now, how it gets fixed, we don't know. I'm waiting, to see what happens with that whole thing. But it's an amazing book. The story is absolutely just stunning. And the artwork is absolutely just gorgeous. It's like a Richard Scarry book meets Dexter. I mean, that's the elevator pitch. I did find out from Patrick that he does hand draw everything, and that's you can definitely tell the level of detail in this book. I love this book to death. It's amazing and messed up all at once, but that's what makes it really great. So definitely continue to buy this book. We can't wait for the next issue. Next up, we have Traveling to Mars, number 11, written by Mark Russell, with artwork by Roberto Mailey. Now, this is another one that came out last week, and we kind of missed it, so we're once again trying to catch up. So what it is long story short, Roy has been sent to Mars by this fast food company to get the rights to what's on Mars. Well, when he gets to Mars, he discovers that there's really not a lot of natural resources on Mars, but he finds all these robots that have been sent to Mars to find stuff. So in a way, the robots are basically the Martians. And so what really this issue is about, it's Roy is dying from cancer. So that's why he agreed to go on to this trip, because this company was going to give money to his mom, so she wouldn't have to worry about anything. And he was terminally ill anyway. So for him, he was going to die. So he might as well, give the benefit to family. So really what this final issue is, it's really a reflection of, kind of life and death. I mean, it's a very bittersweet ending, and I don't want to really say too much, but what has been really the most interesting thing is this book has been a real character study. But also it gives you a perspective, of life and death. And, from Roy's point of view. So, and also how the one thing that I really loved, and Russell set this up very well in the book, that the two robots that were with him on the journey, on the trip, play a key part when they get to Mars, being able to communicate with the other robots and stuff. So, it's just, like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but this book has been absolutely amazing. This is the last issue, so the trade will be out hopefully fairly soon. If you missed this book, definitely it is one of my favorite books of last year, and of course it's ending this year. It really was spectacular. Russell's story was amazing. Melly's artwork was really sealed the deal on this. The artwork is absolutely just gorgeous, and definitely, if you missed it, definitely pick up the trade. This is really a great book. Next up, we have Action Comics number 1064, written by Joshua Williamson, with artwork by Rafa Sandoval. So this is the first part of the House of Brainiac. It's going to be a crossover, which I'm not always thrilled with, but I'm willing to give something a chance. I have been liking what Williams is doing. His first story arc in Action has been really quite good. Um, so what this is Brainiac is coming to Earth, and he's created a Lobo army, and but they're not real Lobos, they're robot Lobos. But they invade Metropolis, and basically Superman and the super family, basically getting people to underground shelters, but what it is Brainiac is capturing all the super family that has powers. Uh, but leaving like Steel and a few others that don't have superpowers, but they're superheroes. And why, we don't know. Why he's using the Lobos, we're not quite sure. But I think it's an interesting setup to this story. I don't know, once again, I'm not a big fan of crossovers, but we'll kind of see how it goes, through the other books. But I think I'm willing to give it a chance because I did like Williamson's first story arc that he did. I just don't know that doing a crossover right after you take over a book is the greatest idea, but it may or may not have been his idea, but we'll leave that for another day. Sandoval's artwork is really nice. It's really a gorgeous issue. Visually it's spectacular. The question is going to be, is this story going to be able to continue like throughout the crossover, and is it really necessary? So we'll kind of see, but I did like this story, so we'll kind of see where it goes. Next up, we have Batman, Dylan Dog #2, written by Roberto Rossini, with artwork by Gigi Cavago and Werther Durella. Batman has traveled to Europe because the Joker's teamed up with Dylan's villain, so that's how they get together. That's how the setup. That's how you set these things up. But what's interesting, so last issue, basically the Joker and the villain, Dylan, they've created a new serum that brings people back to life, but they're kind of, so what they're trying to do is trying to create this new type of like zombie. And there was a serial killer who basically killed people to try to find the soul. He would basically chop up the body trying to find the soul when, was it something physical, and so he was sent to hell. So what it is Dylan gets John Constantine to take him to hell to see if the serial killer is still there. So along the way, they get Etrigan, the demon, to kind of help them get into hell. And so when they get there, they find out that the serial killer is gone. Big surprise. We kind of knew that ahead of time. But it was really neat to see both Constantine and Etrigan in the story. I really do kind of like this. I think what's interesting is that it's a good amount of equal of both Batman and Dylan. Obviously, the first issue kind of centered a little bit more on Batman. The second issue is a little bit more on Dylan. I really like it. The story's really, fun. The artwork is really, really nice. I really like it. I think it's worth checking out. I've enjoyed this. Crossovers can kind of be, kind of iffy, but I think that this one's doing a pretty good job at it, and I think it's worth checking out. Next up, we have Transformers number 7, written by Daniel Warren Johnson with artwork by George Corona. Now, Daniel Warren Johnson did both the story and the artwork on the first story arc, but now he's doing he's just writing it, and then they have an artist. But getting George Corona is a really good thing. Don't worry, I'll explain. So really, the crux of this particular starting of the second story arc is that Soundwave, the leader of the Decepticons has basically failed the mission. So Starscream failed. Soundwave basically says, "Hey, I'm going to be the new leader because you effed up." And so really it's a battle to see who will be the new leader of the Decepticons. I will not give that away. And then the rest, part of the other subplot that's going on is that after all the all the repercussions of what happened in the first 6 issues, Carly is now out for revenge for what has happened to her friends and family and the town. And, she's also really mad at RC for not killing, Soundwave when she had the opportunity. And so she's, now bent on revenge, and RC's trying to explain to her, revenge doesn't turn out well. I understand it because I've went through it. And we also kind of see the repercussions of what has happened in the previous story arc. Once again, Daniel's writing the book, so we still have that going on. Corona's artwork is really perfect because it's not so much he's trying to mimic Daniel Warren Johnson, but it has, it's not a complete stray. He's definitely kind of following that visual thread that has been set up by Johnson. So I think that's actually a smart move on Corona's part to, kind of keep it visually similar. But it's definitely very much, especially you see his artwork, kind of really his style come through, especially on Carly and the humans. So you definitely, but I think it's a wise move, and it gives Daniel the breathing space to continue writing the book, which is really good because obviously, he's doing a great job. But having another artist, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I think Corona's doing a really good job of, kind of keeping the momentum of the book going. So I still love this book. Definitely well worth checking out. Next up, we have Dark Spaces Dungeon #5, written by Scott Snyder, with artwork by Hayden Sherman. Now, I haven't been reviewing the last few issues of this, but I have been reading it, and I really wanted to review kind of the series as a whole, this, with this last issue. Now, it will be coming out in a trade paperback, but so basically the premise has been that Detective Maddox was captured by the end game, or the keeps, and he escaped. And what it is, the story has been Cal, Tyler's son, was kidnapped by the keep, and we find out that the keep has really been looking, to get revenge on Detective Maddox. I don't want to really say too much more to give it away, but there's a great twist of how this all has happened and how it came to be. It's really a messed up ending, but like in a really good way. It really, it really enjoyed this book a lot. But like I said, the twist that Snyder does at the end of this story is really impressive. And Sherman's artwork is really, really great. It's visually just amazing, and it really captures kind of like the messed up, script. But like I said, I wanted to point out this issue because I think it really nailed the landing, which is really, very important in the story, because you can have a good story, but if you don't nail that landing, it's not going to work. And Snyder and Sherman really nail the ending. They land it perfectly. If you missed it, definitely check it out when it's collected in a trade. I really enjoyed this book a lot. Next up, we have Fantastic Four #19, written by Ryan North, with artwork by Carlos Gomez. Now, once again, what I love about what North is doing with this book is, a lot of these stories are one and done stories. He's done a couple that have been a couple issues, but, once again, what I love about this book, you can pick up this issue and not have read any of the previous 18 issues, and you're perfectly fine, because this story, so what it is that the Trapster has found the cosmic cube, and he's basically trying to reshape the world. And what it kind of is a 40s noir thing where Reed Richards has been captured. Sue Storm goes to Alicia, who is a private detective, to find Reed, her husband. And so Ben is her muscle and her husband. So they go, the story goes, it's all noir and everything. And they find out that Johnny May is somewhat involved, the mob's somewhat involved, but really it's a facade that we learn it's a facade, but it's kind of a real story. And it's very interesting because Alicia plays a blind private detective, which is really great. The one thing I really want to point out beyond Gomez's really nice art is the colorist Jesus Abertov really does a great job of infusing the line work with really great noir colors. For the most part, when it's the noir sequences, which is most of the story up until the end, is very limited color palettes, using color very sparsely. Mostly you see it in like reds because they really pop. This was a really good story. Once again, a one and done story. The one thing I've been appreciating that North has been doing is really having Alicia be part of the Fantastic Four. She's married, to Ben. They have kids, and I really like how he's using all the characters. Like the last issue, he had a story that was kind of centered around the kids. But really the key to why this book is so good is that he's capturing the family element, which is really the heart and soul of the Fantastic Four. Once again, I'll point out Gomez's artwork's really nice, and Abertov's colors on top of it are just gorgeous. North wrote a great story. If you have not been reading this book, definitely, if your comic shop has this issue, pick it up. You'll see why I love this book so much and why it's a shame that more people aren't reading this book right now. So definitely check it out. Next up, we have Monsters Are My Business #1, written by Colin Bunn, with artwork by Patrick Piazzolagun. I'm totally messed that up. I apologize, Patrick, in advance. It's Piazzala, Piazzalunga. Like I said, I profusely apologize. It's really difficult. But anyways, so the basic premise of the story is that Tanner Grissom cuddles his kind of like sidekick, pet. It's kind of like Stitch. That's kind of the best way to describe him. And then we have Hillary, who's kind of the psychic. And what it is there was this acid rain and it flooded the town, and now the town they're part of the town is now boglands. And what it is there's people that are somewhat still trapped there. So Grizz kind of goes in. He's kind of like a bounty hunter, I guess that's a kind of the best way to describe it. But there's now monsters in the city, so they're kind of monster hunters, but they're also they help people out. And when they help normal people out, he gets paid by this old lady in chicken and dumplings. But so Tanner, a government agent, comes in and says, "Hey, we sent these guys in to retrieve somebody, and we haven't heard from them, so we're going to hire you." And he basically, Grizz does the job because it's money. You can't pay the bills with chicken and dumplings. So he goes to Boglands and kind of finds out what's happened to the team. I don't want to spoil it, but there's something that the team was looking for that now has kind of changed the story. I really like this. And the story was really intriguing. Colin Bunn really, he writes a lot, and some of it's hot and cold. This one's hot. And Patrick's artwork is really gorgeous. It's absolutely, that really makes the book because it kind of has that cartoony style, which is really perfect, especially with the monsters and stuff. So it kind of plays on that, like field of like, reality and comedy. It's kind of a dark comedy book in some ways. But like I said, Patrick's artwork is really amazing. I really enjoyed this book. I think it's well worth checking out. If they have it at your local comic shop, flip through it, and I think you'll see at least initially the visuals, but I really like Bunn's story that went along with it. So definitely check that out this week. Next up, we have Ultimate X-Men #2, written and drawn by Peach Momoko. So what it is Hisoko has discovered she has powers, but there's also the Shadow Man that kind of is, kind of following her and tempting, she's trying to figure out why he wants her, So she runs across May, who we discover is, I won't give it away, she's an X-Men character that we know, but a different version. And so they her and May go to this, like abandoned school where the Shadow Man is, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. with this whole thing. This is really interesting. I really like, this is really a unique take on, a different X-Men. Like Ultimate Spider-Man has been really good, but it's just kind of telling a different version of Peter Parker. Black Panther was kind of this just a Black Panther story. But what Momoko is doing here with Ultimate X-Men is really just giving it a whole fresh look and fresh concept. It's an X-Men literally in name only, but that's what I really love about the book is that she is just kind of taking the X-Men, ripping it apart and just making her own thing. And that's what I love about it. Beyond, I really like the story. And now it's the one thing I will say with, especially with second issue is it's a really slow build that she's doing, but I actually like that in the story. And obviously her artwork is absolutely amazing, but just be aware it's kind of a slow burn book, but I think that's why for me, I love it so much is that, she's not doing a standard superhero book. And that's why I love this book so much. So definitely still worth checking out. And finally, this week we have Napalm Lullaby, written by Rick Remender with artwork by Bengal. Now, I was not particularly a big fan of this first issue, but I was willing to, because of the talent involved, I was willing to give it a chance. The first issue was just kind of a mess, and you kind of had no idea what was going on. So the main characters are Sarah and Sam, and in the last issue, they basically stole these halos because what it is there's this God who is now running the government. So it's kind of like you're either in the religious government or you're not. And so what it is excuse me, Sarah and Sam have basically stolen halos so they can get in and kill. The plan is to kill God. So this issue, we learn that they live with their father, and their father basically lives in the past where he's keeping books and stuff that artwork and things that have been banned by the religious government. And but he's living in the past, and we know that their mom has passed away. We don't know what has happened, but it must have something to do with God. And so basically they tell their father what their plan is. He's really upset, but he goes along. So this issue, they're able to get into heaven, and start their plan of like killing God. I will say this issue was better than the first one, but ultimately I'm just not totally sold on it. I like Remender. I love Bengal's artwork. I just think that this just is, especially with that first issue that was kind of chaotic. I mean, the second issue is a huge improvement on that because, now we're kind of learning, but I think, I might give it a third issue, but I like this one better. The question is whether it's going to be enough to like go to the third issue. But honestly, I think, the premise is kind of a little thin. I don't really know really a lot about the characters, even from this issue. And I think that's kind of the problem. It's like, I haven't been given a really good reason to care. So we'll kind of see. We'll kind of see how I feel when the third issue comes out, and I'll read it, and we'll see if I decide to review it. We'll go from there. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. A lot of books this week, but as always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store. There's Annie, there's Wendy, Derek does their socials, so definitely check out their Facebook page. They have a Facebook group page where you can post stuff and talk about things, all comics and stuff. It's a really great comic store. If you're in the area, definitely check it out. It's well worth checking out. Ryan loves comics, so there's nothing better than having a comic book store owner that actually really loves comics. That's a huge help. And as always, we end our show with be kind to each other, and be kind to yourself. I know times are tough out there. Trust me. They just had another big layoff at work. Thankfully, I'm still employed, but it's really tough out there right now. I work in the entertainment industry, and it's really rough with those two strikes. And I know a number of people that are out of work. And it's just really tough. Taking care of, being kind to yourself and taking care of yourself is very, very important. But also being kind to other people, once again, kindness doesn't cost anything. opening a door, saying hello, acknowledging people's existence. That's a lot of it. But and being kind to others is good for you. And like I said, it doesn't cost anything. So just take care of yourselves, take care of others. We all need a little bit of a helping hand right now. So just take care of yourselves. And really, and going back to your comic shop, please support your local comic shop. They're the backbone of the industry. They have to buy the books before you do, so make sure that if you pre-order stuff, pick up your books on a timely basis. It's really important because they're struggling too. We're all struggling, but definitely make sure to support your local comic shop. Continue to support them because it's really tough out there. And once again, by supporting them, you're being kind. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's really great. We had quite a few new subscribers lately. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. Comments are always welcome. You have any comments or ideas? I try to do the best I can. I know there's a lot of backlog stuff I need to post videos and stuff, but hopefully we'll get to them soon. But please take care of yourselves. And thanks for watching. We'll do it again next week. This is Steven from popculturemaven.com signing off. Take care of yourselves, folks. Read more comics, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.